how are we doing today? I'm here to talk about everything that I watched in the month of October. And like always in October for spooky season, I have so many plans, so many. Also, like always, I failed to deliver on every single one of them. I actually barely watched anything this month. That's not true. I watched a shitload of YouTube. Yeah, when it comes to either shows and movies, I actually didn't really watch a whole lot. My currently watching is very long though because of the little rule change that I did. But let's just get into things. Starting off with the seasons that I watched this month. The first one that I finished is Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 6, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. This season was good. I had a good time with it. I definitely think as the first part of it was really strong. I do think the more it went on, the more it went downhill a little bit for me. But there's a lot of interesting things that were introduced this season, but I also think oftentimes they just went nowhere for me personally, or like I didn't really like where they ended up. Then next I watched Milo season 3, which I gave 2 out of 5 stars still. It's the end. As you can tell, this season was very short, especially in comparison to last season. Season 2 was endlessly long, and this one was relatively short. I think it was like a month and a half, which this show was really short. And honestly, that's my main issue with it. I do think this was too short. And not just because I need more episodes, but because I felt like things felt a bit cramped and rushed, especially towards the ending. Then we have Spring season 2, which is a rewatch that I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. So I'm rewatching the show for the sing-along, which is at the end of this month. It is the 30th of November I'm going. So I don't know how realistic it is to finish this before time. This season was fun. Definitely comparatively to the first season, I thought there was a lot more in here that I remembered from when I was a kid happening in this. So I had a lot of fun watching this. I have to say this season felt more like a kid show than the previous show did. The first season definitely felt more like a teen show. This one feels more like very giddy at times, so that was like my only complaint of it, but it is still a really fun time. And last for the season's watch is Only Murders in a Building season 5, which I gave 4 out of 5 stars to. Another show that I'm sad is over. It's not over, but like the season is over, and I'm gonna have to wait another year for more episodes. But this was a really fun season. I really had fun watching it. That was really funny. I think this season was really strong at like end of episodes cliffhangers. I never noticed the rest of the show being like that strong for each episode. This one definitely had that, and I thought the mystery was engaging. It wasn't my favorite of the ones, but I like it. Something I loved this season is that Diaconia really felt like a main character. I feel like Diaconia, the building that they live in, for those who are curious, is always like a big part of the show, and I feel like one of the characters, but like one of the side characters. But I feel like this season was very centered on Diaconia and all the people living in it, or at least all the ones that we met, and I really like that element to it. I also really liked the aspect around like casinos and gambling. I feel like that aesthetic I guess of the season was really fun. Cast for some great moments. I really loved the billionaires. I thought they were great characters. I do think it's a shame that we're probably never gonna see them again, but we're gonna have to deal with that. Yeah, it's fun this season. The only complaint I really have for this season is that I feel like typically every season kind of has something going on in the personal lives of the main trio, and I don't think that really was the case this season. Like, there were some minor things, but I feel like there was not a proper storyline for any of them. So then let's move on into my currently watching. Like I said, this is long because if you don't know, last month I kind of enacted a rule switch, because when I originally started keeping track of what I was watching on Serialized and started doing these reviews, I decided to not track kind of non-fiction shows, let's say, that I watch, which mostly is like variety shows, game shows that are Flemish. That was my rule. But as I just keep track of so many things now, and I'm really gotten into the game of tracking shows, I hate the fact that I can track like generally most of what I watch. And I originally decided not to track it because I don't know how to rate and review these shows, and I still stand by that. But it just feels wrong to have like a list of every show that I watched in 2025, and then like most of what I watched this year is not included in there. So I decided to start keeping track of that, but not like log it, which means that there's like no review is not in like officially any of my list. So that means for 2025, because you know, starting last month, I don't have a full overview of the rest of the year, which is also bothering me. So for the rest of 2025, what I'm doing is which is relevant for these videos, is to include these shows am I currently watching, but not in my seasons watch. And that is going to change for 2026, because at the start of the year my brain will be set. I'll be able to actually like keep track of everything. It will be great. That also means we have a lot of shows to talk about. So let's just get through them. Starting off with Buffy the Vampire Slayer season 7. This has been so slow going because I just have not been wanting to watch it. And honestly, part of that is that this is the last season of Buffy and I don't want it to end. I really don't. But also, I'm not liking the season that much. I just think a lot of the things they're doing so far, I'm not very far in, are just really odd and I don't get it and I'm not having a good time with it. Then also have FC de Kampioenen season 11, which is a rewatch. It's just a sitcom that's being rerun on TV every Saturday, so I just watch it every Saturday. And never it's in here. Then next we have Taskmaster series 20. This one I'm not up to date on. I need to watch the last episode that aired in October. I'm behind. I think the season is fine. I'm having a fun enough time with it, but there's something about this cast, even though I like them, I'm not connecting with them that much. And then I also have Spring season 3, which is another rewatch. I just made it through The Thing. If you know Spring, you know what The Thing is. I don't think I have to explain it. And I didn't remember it taking up that much space. Does that make sense? So I cried my eyeballs out already, but this is a good season so far. And I'm actually getting into that extra stuff that I mentioned earlier, starting off with the Golden van Koppen season 6. It's almost done. There's only like one kind of like best of compilation episode. I think this season was fine. I didn't really love it as much as other seasons. I feel like a lot of kind of, because this is like escape room kind of show, but a lot of like the rooms had very similar elements to things they've done before. So that was a little bit disappointing to me. Then I also have the Verrader season 4. We're finally getting to a point where things are starting to shuffle and I'm really enjoying it. I do have to say Francesco Blancard is a hero. I love him so much. Every time he's on screen, I'm having such a fun time. And then of course also watching the Verraders Ronde Tafel season 3. This is the talkback show. Just one season less because they started doing it the second season. I still don't think this is necessary. I will watch it every week because it is a fun time, but I don't think this is a show that needs a talkback show. But then I have the Slimste Mens ter Wereld season 23. This is basically like the quiz show here. Like everybody watched this, I feel like. And it's a fine season so far. It only started this month and it's fine. Next I have Switch season 16. This is another game show. This season is fun. It's really weird because typically the show's on in summer. It's not summer. Then we had The Masked Singer season 5. Obsessed with this season so far. I think it's really fun. I think it's also really exciting because they just refuse to show us something. I feel like typically in the lead up to The Masked Singer, they always like reveal like the different like costumes and stuff. And then obviously the guessing is about who's in it. But they typically like trickle in the costumes in the lead up before it. They didn't do that this time. And we just spent 3 weeks with one group and now we're switching over to another group and we have no clue what's going on over there. So I think it's a lot of fun to do it this way as well. Fun fact, on my second channel make videos kind of guessing who I think is in these costumes and stuff, and I think that's also really fun. So if you want to come guess with me for this season, you can go check that out. And then we have the Jaren Nul Tieners, which is like a mini series, I guess. This is also kind of the third season of a show because they did the 80s, the 90s, and now they're doing the zeros, but because technically they all have a different title, they're all a different show, so they're all technically a miniseries. It's fun. I really love the 80s and 90s ones as well. But now we're in the zeros. We just did 2001 and that's the year I was born. So I actually think this is really fun because now I am more in the zeitgeist of things. Then next we have Kijken en Kijken season 1. This is really fun. A TV channel here in Belgium is like having its anniversary, and therefore is a show where different celebrities are just watching back like fragments from iconic shows from the channel's history. This is fine. I think it's like a fun passing of time. And then last we have De Wereld van Plopsa season 1. This I really like. This is basically like a behind the scenes thing of Plopsaland, which is a theme park here in Belgium, and they've made shows like this before for like the zoos here, and I've never really been interested in those because I'm not really a zoo person, but I love Plopsaland. So I think it's so interesting to see some of the behind the scenes stuff. And then we are moving on to the movies I watched this month. If you've been wondering where the seasonal spirit is, it's on here. I did watch 4 movies this month and they do kind of fit this spiritual seasonal vibe, even if I wanted to watch way more. I had so much planned. Anyway, the first movie I watched this month is X, which came in 2022, and it was a rewatch. I gave it 4 stars. I really like this movie. I watched this a couple of years ago, but I never really continued on with the series, so Pearl and Maxine, and now Maxine recently got added to streaming here, so I wanted to watch the entire trilogy this didn't happen, I will tell you that. I didn't rewatch X because I didn't really remember that much of it, and I still really enjoyed it. I think it's a really effective movie. I feel like it is very eerie for the most part, and I really like that there's constantly kind of like this feeling of something under the current, and I really like that and how that was done. But I do think once like the actual slashing begins, this movie loses the tension a little bit for me. Then I also watched The Woman in Cabin 10, which came out in 2025, and I give 1 star to. I read this book last year, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't necessarily say it's like a great book, but it was a really fun time, and I was sick and I needed a really fun time, and I delivered on that. So I was actually really excited. Oh wait, did I read that book this year? I don't remember. Anyway, either way, I was very excited to watch this movie because it came out this month on Netflix, and I was just excited what they're gonna do with the story because I do think it would adapt really well. Sadly enough, I didn't really like this. I thought the pacing was all over the place, which made it insufferable to watch because at so many times it was like, oh my god, how much time do we have left? It feels like we're rushing through this plot, and at other moments we were at such a standstill. I was like, oh my god, what are we doing? And then I also just thought the whole like reveals and twists and everything, because it is like a mystery, which just was so predictable. And it's not just because I knew the result from the book, because they do change things up a little bit, but because it's just so obvious. They really do not attempt at hiding anything. Then I watched Fear Street 1994, which came out in 2021, and I gave 1 star to as another rewatch. This is kind of like the same story as X, where I watched it a couple of years ago. The only difference is that I didn't really like it, but I still wanted to continue on with the trilogy, and I never did. And it was my plan again to do that this month. Again, I did not do that. But I rewatched this one. I docked a star from it. I originally gave it 2 stars. Now I gave it a 1 star because I just realized this movie is such a nothing burger. Nothing happens in this that's consequential at all. There's no tension when it comes to like the slashing stuff. The characters are as flat as you could possibly imagine. But I did immediately after that, because I was watching this while also doing some other things, and I wasn't done with them, so I immediately clicked through to the next movie, which is Fear Street 1978, which came out in 2021 as well, and I gave 2 stars to. I did like this much more, even though it's like a 2 star, because I do think story-wise it just has more meat to it. There's more going on. It doesn't feel like you're not doing nothing for like the most part. I also think this is a good blend between kind of like witchy paranormal stuff and slasher things. I feel like it blends the two really well, and I like that. I also really like a summer camp setting for horror. I don't know why. The characters also were a bit more well defined, so I like that. Again, romance felt shoehorned in, but I do definitely think this felt way longer than it actually is, and it does have a lot of moments where it is meandering a little bit, so that's why I ultimately did kind of feel a little bit bored by it. That is everything I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you thought of any of these shows or movies, if you watched them, as well as all the things you watched this month, and then hopefully I'll see you next time. Goodbye.
What does the God thing have to be so complicated? I should have played it cool.